Senator Whitehouse, thanks for taking a few minutes with us. Look, you've been very focused on essentially trying to surface for a mainstream audience the campaign that took place on the right to create a conservative court, to create a conservative movement, that this was more than just one thing. Why have you felt it important to devote the time you've devoted to this? I'd argue, almost all of your time has been on this, more so than on the Affordable Care Act, like your colleagues. Why have you decided to make this the focal point?
Well, mostly because the dark money operation that is at work in the courts so badly does not want it to come out. They go through such efforts to hide this whole scheme. Things as simple as pretending that there are 11 different amici who are in a chorus without revealing that they're all paid by the same big Republican donors, and that this is orchestrated. This is performance art. And the problem is that it brings great discredit on the court. And it's really pernicious because this same crew affects both the selection of the judges, and it funds the campaigns for them, and then it comes and tells them what to do in these orchestrated flotillas afterwards. It's not a good thing. It's hidden from the public, and people need to know.
You heard the retort from Senator Cruz. It's like, you want to talk about dark money? What about your side? What about the Democrats in dark money? And Sheldon Whitehouse has accepted dark money or benefited from dark money. And the fact is, let me ask you this, though, the larger issue on dark money about
none of that's true.
About the Democratic Party has certainly is certainly engaged. Now, they will argue they're not for it, but we're not going to quote, the saying goes, we're not going to fight without one hand tied behind our back. Isn't that the struggle sometimes with trying to point out what they're doing? Because, for instance, on dark money, Democrats have not unilaterally disarmed.
And nor should we. But the real difference here is that if you look at who is pushing H.R. 1, for instance, in the House, who is pushing my Disclose Act in the Senate to bring some sunlight and some transparency into this mess, it's Democrats. Every single Democrat in the Senate voted for the Disclose Act. Every single Republican voted against it. That's the vote that matters. Do you want this dark money nonsense or do you not? The Republicans want it. We do not. But since their Republican majority on the Supreme Court created unlimited money in politics and allowed dark money to infiltrate that, we have to fight back. And we have no choice but to do that. I think we're doing the right thing to do that. But it's the height of hypocrisy to blame us for participating in a game that they have protected.
It does seem as if, as a political observer, I always look to see how somebody reacts to something. And we've seen the Republican side of the aisle seems to be pretty sensitive to what you've done. You've heard Ted Cruz has twice now had to, I guess, in his mind, play cleanup for the Federalist Society. But we've also seen it on the Affordable Care Act. And yet, you're going to lose the battle here. She's going to get confirmed, it looks like. But do you feel as if you're winning a messaging war if you may lose the actual battle for the nomination?
I don't know that it's a messaging war. I think it's a war for integrity in government and a war for transparency and a war to get some really grubby special interests' fingers out of places that they don't belong. That's not just messaging. That's real. And I think we need to win that war. I think it's important that we win that war. And let me be clear about the Federalist Society, if I may. I have no objection to the Federalist Society being out there on law school campuses, gathering students together. I have no objection more than any other smelly Washington think tank to them running a smelly Washington think tank. We're surrounded by that stuff. What I object to is them being a conduit for anonymous donors who spend tens of millions, by the Washington Post's estimate, $250 million, to take over and control who gets nominated to the United States Supreme Court. That is wrong. The Federalist Society should not be in that business. No private entity should be in that business. And none of them in that business, for sure, should accept dark anonymous money.
Right. Is that a Federalist Society problem or a Republican Party problem? Right. And I say that in that they've made the decision to use the Federalist Society as their judicial vetting organization. It is now multiple White Houses, multiple Senate majorities, no?
The question is, who's the they there? My contention would actually be that both the Republican Party and the Federalist Society are being used by these very big, very wealthy interests and industries to try to control the judiciary. And I think it's happening to a certain extent, in plain view. But the Federalist Society isn't the problem. The Federalist Society is the conduit for a big dark money enterprise that is trying to run the courts for us in ways that will decide cases their way.
What would you, wave your magic wand, clean up the judicial confirmation process? Look, I'm doing a special on our streaming channel, Peacock, this week about sort of the judicial wars. I guess we could say it started with Bork. How would we clean up this mess? How could you depoliticize this process?
Well, I think about this a lot. I think the first thing to do is to bring a lot of transparency into it. There's no excuse for not knowing who wrote a $17 million check to support Justice Kavanaugh getting on the Supreme Court. People know. The public doesn't know. I don't know, but people know. Somebody wrote that $17 million check. Everybody should know. And that should be across the board. It should be for the amicus curiae who appear in the court. It should be the people who are involved in judicial selection. We should have a complete transparency into who's behind this stuff. Then we can actually look into how deep this problem goes. And once we know how deep this problem goes, and once we've explained it to the American people, then we can look at what further remedies might be appropriate. But I think this has two stages, like many things. The first stage is the transparency stage, and the second is the repair stage, once you see what rot the transparency has revealed.
If Judge Amy Coney Barrett never came through the Federalist Society, but was this conservative, would you have an issue with her on her qualifications? You may have issues ideologically, but on her qualifications.
Yeah, I have concerns with her ideologically, primarily, and with the fact that so many Republicans who are involved in her appointment have been signaling what it is that she's going to do. And this rush to November 10th obviously signals that she's their idea of a torpedo at the Affordable Care Act, even if she doesn't think so. So there are a lot of reasons, apart from her qualifications, to be really, really concerned about where this court is going and who is pulling its strings.
Do you think at some point Joe Biden should release a list of people, and so that you talked about transparency? Is that something that we should see more of? This is what Donald Trump did. Now, I'll be honest with you. No. I thought that was I think when you publicly put out who might be Supreme Court, I think that could bias a process. But do you think Joe Biden should be doing this for transparency reasons?
No, I don't at all. I think transparency comes when you actually have a vacancy and you're going through the process of selection and you haven't insourced the Federalist Society and its donors to do that for you in the White House, the way White House counsel McGahn said they had done. I think that the transparency matters, but I think the list was a political stunt for Trump. Remember, nobody knew where he was going to go. This big donor crowd is desperate to own the court, and if he could produce a list that they had signed off on, and they thought that he would be, a good guy on delivering judges they wanted, that quieted them on that concern. So it was an important signal from him to the Republican big donor elite, but it wasn't good practice, and it wasn't anything that Joe Biden or anybody else should replicate, I don't believe.
Sheldon Whitehouse, I appreciate you giving us a few minutes here. This is supposed to be a lunch break, so thanks for choosing us before you eat. But I'll let you go so you can get something to eat. Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, Democrat from Rhode Island, thanks for your time. Hello, YouTubers. If you're watching this, it means you've checked out our channel, so thank you. Now do me a favor, subscribe by clicking on that button down there. Click on any of the videos to watch the latest interviews and highlights from MTP Daily and MSNBC. You can get more Beat the Press content every morning in the First Read newsletter. If you're tired of content that you don't know anything about where it came from, you don't have to have that problem with us. NBC News, MSNBC, MTP, and the Meet the Press mindset right here for you on YouTube. Subscribe now.